Good morning, everybody. Welcome. The beaver in away already drawing, but you've got till 1/4 past, so don't stress. Let's get some bird song on. Make it nice and calming and relaxing for you. So we're not doing a background today. I thought I'd be kind. Well, fairly kind. You don't have to put them all in either, but you know, I think if you can put as many in. The one that I haven't put in, and it doesn't matter if you have or not, there's like half a poppy on the right hand side there. I haven't bothered drawing that.
I hoped you were going to say don't bother about the fuzzy one.
Well, you could. Oh, the out of focus one. You could get rid of the out of focus one as well if you wanted to. But we're going to put it in focus. Only 4 colours as well today. And you'll spot you've got a biro lid. That is part of your tool kit today. It's got to be a Bic biro. I have not got shares in Bic, but they're the best biro lid for artwork because they're quite strong and flexible, and they've got a nice beveled tip. After many decades of using biro lids, you find the best ones. I have people donating little plastic bags of Bic biro lids when their biros expire. I get the goodies. Ultimate recycling. We're only doing one Christmas fair this year, and that's tonight at Roxton Primary School. They've got their Christmas fair on, and we're doing that. We normally do the light switch on. There's normally a market on that, but that's not happening this year again. Not sure why, but I think they've got a new member of staff on the council organising it all, so it's all different. What's that?
Things just do need to start happening again. As much as we want to all be safe, it just needs to.
Well, they can happen and be safe, can't they? Do you know what I mean? There's no reason now why. I mean, if we've had the fair in the middle of town, you know,
Exactly,
we've had that, so there shouldn't be any reason why there are no events going on. I mean, yeah, indoor stuff perhaps is still a bit iffy if you can't ventilate it or, you know, guarantee safety protocol, but outdoor events should be no problem at all, really, because we haven't had the food fair. We've had no food fairs. There's normally a spring and an autumn one. We haven't had one of those. We haven't had the district show this year either, and I think it would have really helped the town, to be quite honest.
Yeah, we need to get some life back
Yeah.
Not be careful, but not give them the fear of.
Well, no, and I mean, we've seen the impact even here, because we've got a lot of students that still don't feel confident coming back, but they're still doing it online, which is fair enough. Even though I've made the room as safe as I can. But for outdoor events, I can't see why they can't go ahead now, because they are everywhere else. It must be because of the staff changeover, perhaps, I don't know. Do you think you're a hairdresser?
Well, used to be, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, at the minute.
Until you get bored of that and then you want to do something else. Are you getting bored of being a lady in the house?
No, because me and my husband are hoping to go away a lot next year.
Yeah.
And I can't work and do that because of the holidays and so
Yeah.
he has his own company, so
So he's got more flexibility. So just let me know when you've drawn it. I always have to, whenever I use those tracing things, I'm always having to like take a peek just to
in
check.
case that an awful lot of blobby
Yeah,
bits when my hand's been resting.
you have to press quite hard, don't
Yeah.
you?
Yeah.
It's almost harder doing it this way, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it is. It's easier in the sense that it helps you get everything in the right place, but it like with everything, there's a skill to even tracing,
Yeah,
isn't there?
Yeah.
But hopefully, these classes should be relaxing. They shouldn't be stressful. Even though sometimes when you're learning, it is quite stressful.
It's kind of fun, isn't it?
It is. It is. But I'm also training to be a mindfulness teacher.
Are you?
Yeah. Which actually it feels very much with what we do anyway here, because you know a lot of people call our lessons therapeutic and that kind of thing. But the important thing is when you're doing a piece of art, you almost have to surrender to it being what it is. You know, if it doesn't work out the way you want it to, that's okay, because for that piece it is what it is. You just have to remember the next time you do it,
You don't want it like that, then.
change it. What would you change next time? If you were to do it again, what could you do? What could you add to make it more like what you want? But for the time that you're painting, be in the moment of the thing that you're painting.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? Actually, just be in the moment.
Because otherwise, you're constantly worrying about it not being what it should be, and hating it, but you're thinking about the next painting before you've actually been enjoying this one. So yeah, it's really hard to, especially if you're a bit of an overthinker like I am. I'm a wonderful catastrophizer. I instantly think of the worst thing possible. It's quite debilitating at times. I am getting a lot better. But I instantly think of the worst possible situation and then spend ages beating myself up over it. So my aim is to not let you lot do that, because I know what it's like.
Mindfulness is quite hard at times, though, isn't it?
To be
Everybody
present.
thinks mindfulness is meditating and cutting everything out and
No.
relaxing,
But you have to, it's interesting because you have to have a mindful state in order to meditate.
yes.
But meditation is not mindfulness.
No.
Mindfulness is just purely being in the moment and
Yes.
enjoying being aware of your surroundings and
Yeah.
enjoying the present and not thinking about the past and not thinking about the future, because none of that's happened. The past hasn't happened because it's already been and gone. The future isn't happening yet. The only thing that is happening is what you're doing
Yeah.
at this minute. So it's so important to try and stay present. I know a lot of mindfulness people, they concentrate purely on acknowledging their breath, so it brings them back into the moment again. But it's not easy because your mind does wander, doesn't it?
It
You know,
does.
I try to sit and be present, and then I'm thinking, oh, did I put the washing on? Or have I got a washing up to do? Or what
you
am I
have to
doing
consciously
tomorrow?
bring yourself back, don't
Yeah, it's so hard because we're geared. Life is not about being present, is it?
you? No.
It's
No.
that it is a. We feel we're in a race, but I don't know what the destination is really. If it is that kind of, you know.
I feel more like that the last couple of years, that I'm almost in a hurry all the time.
Yeah,
I
but
don't know
why?
what for.
Why exactly?
I don't know. I've almost got clumsy as well because I'm.
Trying to do
Yeah.
that thing, ready to do the next thing. Yeah, I think I don't know. Is it a capitalist environment? I don't know, but I know exactly what you mean because, like, I have a day off and then I feel really guilty if I've watched a film
Yeah.
because I should be
Yeah,
doing.
something.
Yeah.
Why haven't I done anything? And I need to, like, the film is my reward for doing something. And I think, no, if I want to watch a film, I've worked 6 days this week and 2 evenings. If I want to sit and watch a film, I'm going to flip and watch a film.
You have to train yourself though, don't you?
I found it really hard. I have found that actually working from home during the pandemic helped massively because I had to slow down. I couldn't do 72 hours a week and run around and do this and do that. But now I definitely can't do 72 hours a week. My body won't let me. I don't know how I managed 7 years of it before.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
And I don't know what for, because I didn't earn any more money doing those 72 hours a week. I just got more stress and IBS on top of that, you know.
Yeah, that's another one, isn't it?
Yeah. No, when I look at all the anxiety and everything that I've and I have put myself through it. Nobody else has done it to me.
Yeah,
This is me.
the hardest thing, isn't it?
I follow a lot of sort of like anxiety help and whatever on social media, and one post was about stop letting others make you feel guilty about things, and I said I have no opinion of others. Other people's opinions of me really don't matter. The problem I have is my own mind. That's where my anxiety comes in because I don't feel good enough. I don't feel I'm busy enough. I don't feel I'm this. So it's my own personality I have issues with rather than somebody else's. Yeah.
Because, with my partner being like his, it's
Yes.
constantly, oh, don't go out, don't do this, or will you do that? And, you've got to have your own life.
You do.
You've got to balance it with taking care of him as well.
Yes.
But he's not the centre of everything.
No.
He's just part of the whole.
Yes,
And
exactly.
it's so difficult, and it does make you feel really guilty.
Yes. I think guilt is a trait that's we're almost born into feeling
Yes.
guilty, aren't we, for
Yes.
everything. You can't enjoy yourself because if you do, it means that somebody else is not getting your time or attention.
Hello.
Morning.
Good morning, Jackie.
How are you?
I'm alright, thank you. How are you? Got a job for you.
Oh no, what is it?
Not very exciting.
Oh no. What is it?
On the till,
Aye.
there's some little white cards.
Oh.
Can you go through all the gift sets and write a little sign of each one and knock it down to the next?
It's not quite the same when you take it off.
No,
Is it?
it's
How do
not.
that? Yeah,
22.5.
exactly.
So like it's £22.99. Do a little card for it to be £20 exactly. If it's £25.99, knock it down to £25 for tonight, please.
An awful lot of fingerprints on mine.
Thanks. And they like the big
All of them?
craft. Yeah.
What ones?
All the ones that are on display to the side of the till, behind the till, and like the kids' craft compendium things, and the sea white acrylic watercolour and kids boxes. You only need one sign for each type. Thank you. I bet you're glad you came to work today.
That's your list for the moment.
If I can think of anything else, Jackie, I'll add it. She's swearing at me in her mind again, I can tell. Are we drawn-ish? A little bit?
I think so. How good is this going to get?
Cat. Well, 4 colours. We've got cadmium red and cadmium yellow. So they're the orangey yellow and the orangey red on the left-hand side. And then we've got ultramarine and lemon yellow on the other side. I've split it like that because the red and the yellow are for the poppies and the yellow and the blue are for the greenery. And then for any dark bits we'll use a purpley colour mixed from the red and the blue. The biro lid, however, will come into its own later on.
It's a secret technique, isn't it?
It's a secret technique. It's not always easy, but is anything ever easy,
True.
really, when you think about it? Things are only ever easy when you've done it before. If you've never done it, you've got no idea. Right. But yeah, we'll be taking our card machine, our little portable card machine tonight, just in case. People are more likely to spend if they haven't got, because they haven't got, nobody's got cash. And we used to do loads of craft fairs, and people go, "Oh, I haven't really got much money. I'd love to buy that." So now we can go buy card, and you can contactless, and we do Apple Pay.
What do you take? Do you take paintings or?
We've got a few things. I've got £5 paintings. What happens is a lot of the paintings that I do in lessons that are okay, but not great, I put them in a basket for £5. So people can, this time of year people normally spend like 50-60 quid on 10 of them, for Christmas gifts, and then just get a mount or a little frame or something, because then it's affordable original art.
Yes.
But we'll take a few like craft sets and gift sets and things as well. We've made up, over the pandemic we were doing subscription boxes for kids, so we've got lots of little crafty things. So yesterday Jackie made up just a handful of different craft boxes where you've got like wooden things to assemble, like knights and
Oh, nice.
so we sell these for like a tenner. We were doing them. We were doing a monthly subscription for kids over the pandemic when they couldn't do anything or go anywhere. There's like one with a fairy door and a little gnome to paint and a few other things. So it's good fun. They are fun. Well, head to Roxton Primary tonight, 7 till 8:30. No. Well, no.
I walked to town, so I didn't need to pay for parking. And I think it's just where I've got kids, and they used to just take it for pocket money or lend it.
Yeah.
When they were at secondary school.
No.
It's just like, look, it's not having any.
I don't keep much. I do like to have some. I like to pay for my petrol in cash because it helps me monitor stuff. Because once I start tapping, because I don't really earn enough. I only scrape a living doing all this stuff, so I have to be quite controlling of my money. But I don't carry much change. I never carry change for parking. But what does annoy me is I pay by all the apps, but they charge you 20% for paying by app. So like if I come in on a Sunday and it's £1 parking, and I park on the back of the Oldham Auctioneer, use the app, it costs me £1.40. But I'm not using their machine tickets, and it goes to their system, so they don't need to patrol.
Yeah.
So actually it's saving money, but because I'm using an app, I'm being charged for the privilege of not spending money. So I try not to park in town now. I treat today I am, because I've got to get the car close by for loading up for tonight, and on Saturday I treat myself. But I worked out that I did a year where I parked in town every day, and it cost nearly £1,500 a year for me to have the privilege of coming to work.
Yeah. It's dreadful, isn't it?
Where I'm also
Frightening.
paying, you know, and I do begrudge just constantly paying out
Yeah.
to have the privilege of having a business that then people are not encouraged to actually come into town
Yes.
for. It's
They need to do what Vista does. Is it Whitney? It's just free parking.
you know, they put the prices up here now, Cho.
Yes,
Well,
they have, haven't they?
prices have gone up to offset other expenditure issues. So yeah,
Yeah,
well,
like what?
buying the precinct then that's now empty.
It's not going to ever get better.
It won't if they keep putting the parking up. This is the problem, and they only ever look at the shorter answer rather than a long term solution.
It's always been the same in Banbury for parking, though. Hasn't it? It's always been bad. It's always
Yeah.
been expensive, and there's never
No,
sort of been really
There's
been
never
enough.
an easy, nice option, is there? I know that sounds silly.
no, there isn't. There
No.
isn't a good option, and especially since the multi-storey car park was knocked down.
Yes.
That was, we noticed a huge
Yeah.
change in people's shopping habits when that went, because
Yeah.
that covered the whole town. Whereas if you park on Castle Quay, you tend to just stay in Castle Quay. And like, yeah, we've got the new Lidl, free parking for an hour or 2 hours down on the old Spice Ball site, but that's half a mile away
Yeah,
from
I was
this
gonna say,
shop.
that's not long enough,
You're
is
not
it?
you're not going to want to do it.
I couldn't work out where to park today.
No.
And I thought, because I actually walk out parking, so I thought, you know, I'm just going to walk.
Yeah.
Because I just live at the bottom of Grange Road,
Oh yeah.
Fontaine's estate bit, and I thought, well, I'll just walk. Took me just over half an hour. Winding on it.
Good step count as well.
Yeah, exactly.
But with all the roadworks going on, it's absolutely
Oh.
crazy, because it's still roadworks by Sainsbury's. Yeah, and then you've got Hennef Ways all one lane for the next 2 weeks.
I come in from Lighthorn, and where all those houses are being built this morning, Touchwood, there wasn't any traffic lights. But
It gets to a point
Oh.
several times a year when all of the roadworks are all through the town.
Yes.
There's not a single way in or way out
Yeah.
that is roadwork
Blocked
free.
off.
What are they
Yeah.
doing? I haven't seen one worker
No.
on these traffic lights.
No, Hennef Way is exactly the same. They're changing the lampposts, and they've done the whole dual carriageway, almost 3/4 of a mile of it, to one lane. But the bit that they're working on is right at the other end, so they didn't need to do that.
Half the time you don't actually see anyone though, do you? Working on it.
No, it's so frustrating, and a lot of it, I'm sure, could be done on an evening where it reduces
Yes.
the
Yeah,
problems.
congestion, yeah.
Well, yeah, because my husband's business is on Oakthorpe Industrial Estate.
Well, that's often terrible, isn't it?
And a lot of places are down there. That's a really busy estate.
Yeah, it's crazy. Right, so I'm going to use my biggest pointy brush, and I'm going to pull out some of the yellow and make that nice and runny, and add a little bit of red. So I'm making a very pale orange to start with, and watercolours are transparent, and they work with the more water you add. Now all I'm going to do is you've got to trust the process with this, that we're putting the orange on, and I will do a petal at a time. And then we'll put the red on top, you see, so it gives it more of a glow. And you don't have to do a petal at a time, it just encourages you to slow down and not just shove it on all over the place and hope for the best. But you want it really inky.
Would we do that?
I am
Come
not
on.
in a hurry, Judy, you're not in a hurry.
You're not in a hurry, there is no need, it is not a race. There are no prizes for finishing first.
See, I don't
Pretty
even know
orange.
that. I'm not even thinking that when I'm hurrying, like, I've got to do it. It's just, it's almost like a built-in...
We're trained to work, I suppose with your job it's a schedule, isn't it? You're
It's supposed to, yeah, and also, I was always getting dinner for when the kids came in, or the husband came in. It was,
It's never ending, isn't it?
yeah, and my husband even likes that, so I don't even know why I am.
No. Well, the whole thing of time is a man-made construct. It doesn't really exist in the way that we do it, does it? You know, you've got your morning and you've got your night time, and that's kind of all we need to know. You eat when you're hungry, and you know, that's all it should be. However, we are really channeled, and I look at, you know, when you look at other, well, they say less fortunate cultures that aren't westernized, they have a much calmer way of life, don't they? And they really slow down, and it'll get done when it'll get done, kind of thing. And there's me.
It is horrible being under pressure. That's one thing I found, because with my partner having dementia, he like, we had such a row this morning. What time are you going to be back? Well, I don't really know, because I've got to go to the shops as well.
Yes.
And he has to know what time.
What time?
And if you don't tell him the time, then he gets all ratty. And then if you tell him the time and you're late, he gets even rattier.
Yeah, it is difficult,
My
isn't
life
it?
has never been like that. I've never, been tied to exact times. I hate it. It's such a pressure.
But then you do have to stop and look at it, and I'm having to do this because I put pressure on myself all the time, and I look at it and I think, why does this ironing have to be done by, yes,
Yeah.
why does it have to be done at this point, and why should it be finished at this point? What am I gaining by doing it? One thing I have started to do is, because I started to go the opposite way during the pandemic, and then I just didn't bother doing anything. I saw a video that said that when you think you should do something, you have 5 seconds before your brain tries to stop you from doing it. 5 seconds. So what I do is I think, right, I really ought to put that washing away. As soon as I think that, I stand up and I've got a piece of washing in my hand. So I go and do it straight away. So it makes me more productive, but I'm not time pressured. It just, when it comes into my mind, I do it straight away. Like, I'll think, right, I really ought to do that washing up. I'm already up and I'm at the sink. Because if I allow that 5 seconds to kick in for my brain to go, nah, you don't need to do that just yet. You're fine for a couple of hours. Just you sit and scroll through your phone for the next month.
You look on Facebook,
Yeah.
press the page, 'cause nothing's
Yeah.
changed since you last looked.
Yes.
Or go through your.
It's a bit like
It's,
looking in the fridge.
yeah, it is. It is terrible because you just scroll through, and the way, if you watch a video on Facebook, the clever way that it's already lined the next one up for you, so the next one starts playing whilst you're finishing the other one, and then you'll think, oh, I'll just watch this bit, because they're all related. So if you like watching a puppy running around, it's like, oh, there's another one. Oh, there's a koala bear. Oh, look at that little wombat, isn't that cute? Look at that kitten playing cowboys. Or yeah, it's terrible. I could waste hours. Let's give my brush a bit of a clean. So this needs to dry.
It always fascinates me how far these watercolours go to mix. You
I
only
know.
need the tiniest little bit, don't you?
You don't need much. It's all about the water. It's the, because you don't need white paint with watercolour either. It's the white paper that makes the colour glow. And the reason why I put the yellow down is because we're using red, and obviously if we did a lot of watery red, it could look pink, and we want more of a red poppy than a pink poppy. So it's better to have an orangey glow than a pinky glow, I think. Well, there are different sorts of poppies though, aren't there? Somebody sent me a photo of a poppy in their garden, and it was really, really frilly. Lots of layers, like almost like a pom-pom.
Oh, how nice.
Really nice to look at. That's the other thing that art does. Even if you're not as good as you think you are, your appreciation of nature and the stuff that you notice that you never would have noticed before.
Yes.
I have found that you are it's like you've been walking on your ice.
Yeah, you look at colours and you look at shapes, and then you start thinking, oh, now if I painted that,
It is just a
yeah, or what colour would I need to paint that? Or there are sometimes you see things and you think, gosh, if I painted that, nobody would believe it was real because it looks so odd. Yeah, it does. It just heightens your appreciation of everything, and I think it's a shame to see. I think I saw somewhere that there's yet more cuts coming to art education. That the funding's being reduced more and more because it's not seen as a valuable or viable.
No, that's because the people that work out all the funding and that, they've never done it, so
No.
they don't realise the benefits, do they?
But then everything we see, open and use has been designed by somebody creative, haven't they?
Yes.
All the wrappers, all of the boxes, all of the shapes, everything that we use has been designed. So it's actually extremely valuable. And also, what I found surprising, because the cuts are only just starting to come in and they're discussing further cuts. During the lockdown, the arts is what kept everybody sane. You know, people were taking online art classes. I mean, we were teaching people from nearly every single country in the world online during the pandemic. But then people were watching more films, they were reading more books, they were watching more concerts and operas and plays all online. So we have got an appreciation for the arts, but in the wider sense, it's not valued. It's almost like it's not a proper job.
Since it's all been opened back up, we've been going to the theatre loads.
Oh, good,
Shows of all sorts.
good.
Musical. We've seen 3 times since it's been back opening. That Out of Hell, the musical.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, is it good?
Oh, it's absolutely amazing.
Is it good?
Yeah, we've got tickets for next June.
Oh, amazing.
We've hired one of the boxes. Go
Ooh.
and see like the closing night because we
Ooh.
can't get enough of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Oh,
brilliant.
that's lovely. Yeah.
We saw what's it called? The other rock one. Rock of Ages.
Rock of Ages, that good.
Yeah, that was good.
See, that's good. I think if it's helped encourage, you know, I donated to the Theatre Support Fund during the pandemic because obviously my other job is a singer, so I lost all of my work during the
Yes.
pandemic. I was lined up for the most gigs I've had because it was the 70th anniversary of D-Day, wasn't it? And
Yeah.
I'd got 3 days in a weekend where I'd got 2 to 3 gigs a day, all gone, and you won't get it back because
No.
it's no longer the 70th
No,
anniversary. So it's a shame. It's a shame. Because the whole of my career is in the arts at some form, so it's an indicator of often how the society is going once if people aren't taking up art and doing things, or money's tight, because it's a luxury, isn't it? Sadly, being creative and calm is a luxury in a
It is,
stressful,
yeah.
which is crazy. It should be something that is so important.
Everyday life,
Yeah. Right, I'm going lots of red. Now, this is going to be runny, and this is where your biro lid will come in, and it is scary, and we're going to do a petal at a time. So, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to do this petal first. So, I'm going to go quite light over this. Now, we don't want this to dry. So, we're going to go light around the edge, and then as we get further into the bottom, I'm going to add more red, so it's just a little bit deeper. And the biro lid is all about the grooves and the ridges in the petals. So you can see I've got quite a bit of red down there, so that's just a more concentrated version of the paint and less up the top. So if I use the clip and scratch into the petal, what that does is it creates a groove. You bruise the paper and you create a channel, and what happens is the watercolour fills in the channel and it gets darker, and it will always go darker.
Yeah.
So it's just, once you've got it, you can't get rid of it. So don't panic too much. But if you've done it and it's dried, all you have to do is wash a bit more paint over the top, and it will change and it will go back in. If you put too much paint in on the top of your petal, you can just use a clean damp brush and just lift out some of the paint. And we'll work on a petal at a time, and it's just observing the petals that you can see in front of you, and following the contours. You might want to do one petal and move on to a totally different flower or something like that. The out of focus one, you don't have to do any of the ridges unless you wanted to bring it into focus, and then that would work. So a more watery red around the tip of the petal, the edge of the petal, the outer edge, and more concentrated paint towards the center. And that also helps define your petals. I could have got out lots of fancy embossing tools for this, but I thought, no, a biro lid. Everyone's got one. And it's a bit more fun. 20 to 11 already, you see. What you'll find is that time disappears in these classes. No, don't worry, I've got my time on that. We'll do the minute silence, and then we'll break for coffee if anybody wanted one from downstairs. I can do an order. I've got a gig at the RAF club on Sunday.
Oh, have you?
And I thought it's a 2 hour, it's two almost hour long sets I've got in the afternoon. I thought it would all be 40s music because of being Remembrance Sunday,
Yeah.
but they want a Rat Pack sing along.
Oh, how nice.
So that'll be quite fun. I mean, that's
Fantastic.
right up my street, so I'll be doing lots of Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin songs. And
Do you have to scratch quite hard with it?
yeah, the harder you press, the darker the line. And if you can't see it going dark, you can always
No, I don't think I've got enough paint on there.
well, yeah, if you do it all while it's like that,
Yeah.
and then add more
Oh,
paint
right.
afterwards.
Yeah, I can see it. It's still
Yeah, because can you see mine just starting to get darker? You can see the ridges very roughly on the paper. So pale around the outer edge, bit more paint in the centre. Trying to find a petal where I can go round one and miss one and then do another one, because while it's wet they all bleed into each other. It helps if your brush stroke goes in the direction of, but doesn't matter if not, because you're creating the direction with your biro lid. it's a good way of getting fine dark lines in watercolour, you see. Otherwise you'd have to use a brush with one hair or something. I've used this technique if you're doing distant trees and you want branches and tree trunks right in the distance. You can scratch in while the green's wet and you've got a really good bank of trees. Are you enjoying yourself, Julie? That's the main thing.
Sorry?
You're enjoying yourself. Good. I'm gonna let that dry for a minute because I've run out of space where I can stick a petal. It isn't going to run anywhere. So. Sometimes the simple paintings are the most difficult in a way because you can't hide anything.
No.
You know, if you're doing a landscape, you can shove a bush or shove a tree in front of something that hasn't quite worked. But with something like this, the effectiveness often is its simplicity and the brush strokes. Doesn't take too long to dry unless you want it to. That's the thing with watercolours. So the petals will probably take us up to 11 o'clock-ish. And then a bit of fiddle time afterwards, and then the greens and any shadows after. It's just remembering to keep your paint nice and inky and fluid. And then the curves of your biro lid work indicate the curvature of the petal. You should work quite well with having a white background. I think, especially in watercolours, if we were trying to do this and then add a coloured background to it, trying to get it to meet up to the petals without it going over the petals, even if you did an icy blue or a green, it would be much harder, especially because both of you are a bit more beginnery. I think it would create a bit more stress than it should.
We'd worry about it.
Yes, and that's not what we want. I mean, there are times when it's good to push the boat out and, you know, learn something new and what have you, and we will do that. But with this, I think I like the simplicity of it being just on a white background. So yeah, if you want the paint lighter, add more water. If you want it darker, add more paint. And then the biro lid just gives you your petal grooves. And watercolours do dry 30% lighter than the colour you've put them down, so you'll find that as you paint, what you think is quite a deep colour actually dries quite a bit lighter. And that's where the yellow underpainting works really well, and it stops the poppies from being so pink. when you are scratching in or bruising the paper, I suppose, if it doesn't go dark because your paint's dried, that's all right. Just go over it with a damp brush and a little bit of red, and you'll see the stripes and the ridges forming. But anything with a blunt end, a thin blunt end, works well for this. I suppose a darning needle to push would work. That's not too sharp, is it?
I was going to say, what's a darning needle?
I see.
They're quite big and blunt, aren't they?
They are. I use them because I still darn everything on.
Do you?
Oh God, I turned my shirt collars as well.
Oh my God, you're good.
No, it's just because I've got no money. That's what it is. I have to make everything last.
But darning's quite a skillful thing. I'm turning collars.
Oh, there's a really good tool out, and it's round, and it's got 5 pins on, and you can get different sizes. So like for socks or whatever, and then you push it under, and then you wrap. You go up through, and then wrap through each point going up,
Yeah.
and then you can slide it, and it slips over. And then you can weave underneath it, so you can go over under. So it's a really good weaving tool.
You used to have like those mushrooms.
Yeah, I've got one of those for the socks. Yeah, because I have a lot of woolly socks. I like to darn them. I try not to waste money. I mean, I know.
Say it's about wasting as well as
It is.
financial
It is these days.
Yeah. Well, everything's so like if you go to Primark and you can get like a pack of socks for a couple of quid, which is fine, but then you have to look at the environmental cost and the wastage cost of that, and how on earth have they afforded to make them so cheap? Does that mean that someone somewhere's on like a penny an hour?
Yeah.
quite hard, isn't it?
It is quite hard.
The right thing all the time, and you can't always do that.
You can't. I think we were saying this in one of the other classes. It doesn't matter which route you go. There's always another problem created by that way. You know what I mean? There's not a definitive way of living now that doesn't have some sort of impact because of the way, you can try to go plastic free, but we're shamed into doing that. But it's the big companies that are still making the plastic.
It's like the wrapping paper for Christmas.
Yeah.
If one company reduced the wrapping paper, you could recycle it. They'd all have to do it, wouldn't they?
Yes.
really?
Yeah, it's the same as National Trust when they send you your booklet every year. It's in biodegradable envelope.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
in
it is.
biodegradable plastic, which is wonderful. But then I think, well, why aren't all my other stuff that I'm getting from the companies that are earning far more money than the National Trust? Why aren't they? And actually, we've noticed it in the shop. At one point, sketch pads just used to come as a pad. Now they all come individually shrink wrapped.
Oh, that's terrible, isn't it? It's
And-
like all
and-
the vegetables
yeah.
out of the supermarket.
I think it's mainly because
Point.
people complain that they don't want a slightly dog-eared pad, but then they should browse more responsibly and not
Yes,
bend somebody
exactly.
else's pad. But it is, since they reduced the plastic waste and charging for carrier bags, they've just wrapped everything else up in plastic. So they've just swapped one dilemma for another.
I try and do my best.
Yes, I think that's all any of us can do, and you wrestle with your own conscience of what you think is the best way forward and what works well for you, and I think that's the only way we can do things. Do what you can and be as sustainable as you can, but it's like that in life, isn't it? Like, be as nice to people as you can and
Yeah.
just look after everybody. If I do have nasty customers, which is very rare, I always try to think, what are they going through that I don't know
Yes.
that has made them that way? because clearly it isn't about a paintbrush. You know,
Yeah.
there's a bigger problem that they're facing that I'm not privy to. So I should really try to be more understanding, despite what I may want to mutter under my breath.
It does work both ways though as well.
It
though, doesn't
absolutely does.
Just because sometimes I get fed up of reading about the abuse that receptionists get that the doctors seem to get.
Yes.
The last few times I've tried to get an appointment, they're rude on me before
Yeah,
I've
exactly.
even spoken to
Yeah.
them.
And I think that is the thing as well, isn't it? They're frustrated because of all the abuse they get, so they presume that everybody ringing them is going to abuse them, so they're on the defence straight away.
And I always try and sound very appreciative if they've given me an appointment because it must be hard and
Oh
frustrating.
yeah,
It's just like,
but
I
yeah,
know
you're
it's
right.
expensive.
Yes, you've almost it is.
They've started off this phone call with, well, sort of, oh, all right, okay, I'm sorry I rang you, you know, and you asked.
I'm not ringing you just for a chat. Yeah, there's a reason I'm ringing the doctors. And it's not to tell you about my last holiday. You can
I'll
add a bit.
remember mine.
No. I'm adding a bit more yellow on the top of the petals just to give it a bit more of a glow. And it's coming up to 11 o'clock, so I'll just add a bit more of the yellow.
I think I've done something strange with this poppy in the corner. It looks like a caterpillar or something.
Some of the petals are a really odd shape.
Yes.
A really odd shape. Got a little bit of yellow on there. We will put some darker purple tones on some of the underside of the petals as well, and that will, because we can't actually see the centres of some of these poppies, any of these poppies actually, but you will see through them. Right, so I am going to, hello Sandy, I'll mute the bird song for a minute and then we'll move on to our minute silence in a second. And I've got this poppy video, as I say, which is a minute long, so that's just the right time. Okay, it's 11 o'clock. Let's have a minute silence. How's your painting going?
Have we got any A4 black card?
Looks like a goldfish.
Is it?
That's looking alright.
Oh, okay, thank you.
It is. It's looking alright.
Mine's like a 5-year-old.
No, it's not.
Well, I'm
It's
enjoying
looking
it.
well, that's all right. That's fine. There's. I think there is some. There's people in the room today, Sandy, but online, it was just you. Right. I think we'll have a drinky poos if you want one. Julie, did you want another drink, or are you all right with what you've got, or do you want another one from down in the cafe?
I'm going to have another one.
You'll have another one. Linda, did you want a drink?
Yeah, I'd love another coffee, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have your gifts down too. Just put them
Thank you.
when you pay happy when you go down. Did you want your biscuit, Julie?
No, I don't. Trying to make sure
So do you want another black Americano?
Mine was the same black
Black
Americano
Americano.
with
Oh,
2
that's
sweeteners,
easy.
please.
Two sweeteners. Oh, that's handy. I can do this.
Oh, it's horrible, isn't it?
My son's won me twice.
You can't win, can you?
My friend said, my best friends would message and say, hi, can you talk? No, the one time I can't, no. It's just like, oh, and then they won't tell you, so you worry about it. See, this is...
I have to leave my phone on. My partner's sitting at home probably fretting and whatever, and he's quite good at falling over at the moment as well,
Oh,
so,
no.
yeah. So I'm constantly,
You're
not
on
on edge, but, you
You're
know,
almost
just
starved,
waiting, yeah.
Yeah. No, my friend won't say anything. She's just saying, oh no, it's all right, I'll talk to you. It's just like, well, if you just give me some hint.
Yes,
I'll
is it
stop
urgent? Or,
Yeah, I'll stop either worrying or my worrying will be justified and that's fine as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's strange that you just,
People just demand from
yeah,
you. It's
you're
almost
not allowed 5 minutes or, you know, or a couple of hours
to yourself.
for yourself. And you bloody need it as well, don't you? Just to
You do,
recharge a
you
bit
do.
and forget about everything and everybody else.
No, because everyone thinks if I don't work, I've got all the time in the world to do everything there.
Yes. It's me too. I gave up work and of course I do miss it. I know you said you enjoyed your retirement. I'm not enjoying mine very much. Not that I'd call it a retirement, but
No, it's,
indoors.
I think it's reasons why though, isn't it? It's,
Yes.
that makes a difference. My son that's from me, he's just demanding and he's quite a drama queen. He's not good with money, so I try and help him and then we fall out because I've said, Jim, you've wasted too much money this month, you've got any left, kind of thing. He's not always truthful. He likes the drama, so he always adds bits on.
Yeah, so you never actually really know,
Oh my
do you?
God. No,
No.
and actually it's exhausting.
Yeah. That is the word, it is exhausting.
Yeah, you don't know where you're going.
that's even worse, isn't it?
Yeah, they're both you.
Yeah.
It's just like
It's like you don't matter, isn't it? Your time
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
yeah.
That's the worst thing. I'm so desperate to get time out of the house now again. I've actually joined Slimming World tonight, my first time back again, to try and lose some weight. It just means another hour and a half out of the house in the evening.
I never got on with some.
No, I've not. I mean, I haven't done it for years. But I wanted to do Weight Watchers, but there's no classes around here
Isn't
anymore.
there?
No, not anymore. No, it used to be one Hanwell Fields and all sorts, but there's nothing.
The only thing I worry about is slimming mode. I can't do it. I have to give up sugar. It almost like ketosis, but not.
Yes.
It's not that drastic as completely everything. My husband's type 2 diabetes, so we've both given up sugar. I've lost 9
right.
pound. His blood levels have dropped dramatically. So
It's
we're
amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, well chuffed with it.
Yeah,
Um,
that's brilliant.
yeah. I'm just keeping up with it all, isn't it?
Yes.
And it's just slimming world. Because I was going through some hard times, I just found everything negative. Like it's a sin to eat.
Yes, I know. It's not. Yes.
And you just think, oh, really? Can't we just change the wording on this, please?
I think my problem is just boredom at home in the evenings, worst of all.
I've tried to stop eating after 8:30 because if I
I'm
do,
terrible.
I just eat the whole entire contents of my fridge.
Yeah, so
It
would I.
always sends off a hunger thing.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't hungry before I started it. And then all of a sudden that's it. Can't stop. So you started doing these classes like
I started doing them.
workshops?
Was it last year? It could have been the year before,
Oh,
actually.
I lost last year, I think.
Yeah,
It's
and
weird, isn't it?
yes, and then because of COVID and Sam being so ill and everything else, and work, 'cause I'd worked as a cook, so the hours were pretty rubbish. So I sort of lost track and gave up. But I was just so desperate to get out, and I love doing it. I mean, the results are pretty crappy, but I don't care. It's just nice to be out and doing something and meeting other people as well.
Yeah.
That's why it's so nice to have you here this week. The
Yes,
last
it's
couple of
like-
weeks I've been on my own.
Yeah. It's almost like I keep forgetting they're out a bit now.
I know, it's strange, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I need to rescue that somehow. I don't quite know how. That does not look like a hobby. Have you got any hobbies or anything that you do at home?
I do a few exercise classes.
Oh, do you?
I've started to go to the gym.
Good. I gave that up as well. I just put on so much weight over the last couple of years.
I think mine was moved when I was already Zoe had a hysterectomy a couple of years ago. And ever since I had that, the weight's
Really?
awful.
I had hysterectomy when I was 36, but because it was so early, they put me straight on HRT,
Yeah,
and I've been taking it ever since.
They put me an implant in because I had it done in a private hospital purely because the NHS
You have to
paid.
wait.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I needed it done.
yeah.
So they sent me to a private place and they put an
Gosh,
implant.
I've impressed myself getting up the stairs lovely leaves.
Well done. I can't get over it. I have to ask for someone to bring it up for me because I can't carry it up.
I think I'm better with it than I am with a tray.
Thank
I
you.
like that doing it. Are you pleased?
I am. I think it's
That
got
looks
better than I thought
amazing.
it would.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. Mine looks like two dead goldfish.
No, it doesn't.
Well, one looks like a
No,
dead
it doesn't.
goldfish.
You see, we could. You can.
I
When
don't know
it's
how can
dry.
I.
Right, what you can do is to define the shape of your petal, because
That's the bit, isn't
I
it?
think that's two petals there.
Yes.
Is
I have sort of tried, but it's not done.
Yeah.
Not really done it.
it's a little bit lower there. Let me blast it with the hairdryer, and then we can have a play.
I've got to eat my biscuits for last chance. I've been saying that for the last 2 years.
Right. So we could darken the back of the other one, because that's quite light there now, isn't it? And then we go in with a bit of dark there, and just push that up, clean it off, and then fade it upwards. See how we've got two petal shapes now?
Yeah.
Do the same with that one. So you make the foreground, the top bit lighter, and the bottom bit a bit darker. And you can lift off. It is difficult. Watercolours isn't easy, but that's kind of created a bit more shape. And you could go a bit darker with that if you made
Yeah.
add a tiny bit of blue. I'm just going to quickly make myself a drink. I've forgotten about me.
Oh.
See, that's how.
Shouldn't be doing that.
That's
you see.
how I am so lovely. Your needs are greater than mine. So I'll just make myself a drink and then I'll come on and do the rest. I might, because mine's dry, I might try and rub out some of my pencil lines if I can. Although with watercolour, once you've painted over your lines, they kind of stay forever.
Kind of permanent then.
It's got rid of a few of the stronger ones. I'll be back in a sec.
Something just not. What it is. When you start fiddling with it, trying to get it better, and it's just getting worse and worse and worse.
Have to use mine a
Yes.
bit, I think.
I don't think I'm going to redeem that bit. I think it just looks like a goldfish and that's stay like that.
A goldfish.
Yes. It's that bit at the side, you know, with the bit that's sticking up there.
Oh,
That
I
bit,
know.
it just
I
looks
wasn't
like
really
a
sure
goldfish
what,
on there.
what to do, so I've tried to do some dark strokes coming up from the bottom bit.
Well, that's true. That could be,
You know what I
couldn't
mean,
it?
you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, just where the stalk comes.
Yeah.
How's it going?
I'm walking away from it at the minute before I keep fiddling with
That's
it.
looking nice. Because what you can do as well if you want to make things darker is if you put the same colour on the top, it will go darker because if you think of it, you know, like
Like
sweet
building
wrappers,
up.
yeah,
Yeah.
because it's like lots of transparent layers. But you could also at the base of the poppies, if I go with red and a tiny weeny bit of blue, just so it makes a reddish purple colour, I can pop that on there, look, and then just brush it up a little bit. So it makes it a little bit darker, and that's where you're getting more definition, and then we'll know where the centre is, because we can't see the centre from the outside. This is showing you the centre from the underneath. But you could almost outline some of your petals with this if you really struggle to get that extra definition, because some of them are a bit random, especially the two rabbit ears up here.
Yes. My goldfish fins.
Yes. Well, they are a bit more goldfishy, I suppose, since we put the stripes in. See, I might put a bit more. See, actually, if I go in with a bit more red and a little bit less blue, I could even just use it to flick up to give a bit of shadow in the petals,
Yeah.
especially where it's darker.
God, you make it look so easy.
Well, I've been doing it for a long time. But when you're doing the darker tones like this, you do need to let your... Yeah, you've got a hairdryer in front of you if you want to force dry it, or we've got another 40 minutes left, so you've got time if you wanted just to let it dry naturally. But it's amazing how fast these lessons go, because you're not thinking about outside world or anything. It's a good escape. We often have students coming in escaping grandparent duties, so they've got just that bit of time to themselves before the school run or anything else. Did you say V's your mother-in-law, Julie?
She was for my first marriage.
Okay.
If that makes sense, but she sort of still is.
Yeah.
I was married to the son that she lost. So
Right.
that's why she sort of still is.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, it does. She's been in the shop, but every time she's been in, I've been teaching, so I've not seen her.
Has she been to some of your classes before?
Yeah, she did a lot of the drawing classes. She used to come every Wednesday.
Oh, that was it with Polly, wasn't it? With the
Yeah. She used to come every Wednesday, pre-pandemic. And she does a lot online now.
Polly's moving to Stowe.
Oh, lovely there. Stowe Gardens and everything. It's gorgeous. And also that they took on the my old shop in Church Lane when they had the antiques place.
Yeah.
That was my old shop there.
Was it?
Yeah, my when I first opened the Artery, it was in that building 11 years ago. Hard to believe I've been here 11 years.
It just goes so quick, doesn't it?
It does.
Just sort of-
I mean, we've done a lot in those 7 years, but I posted the reference image up for the parrots this afternoon, and one of the students has gone, for this lesson do we just copy Barry parrot fashion? He has to put these little jokes in every week, bless him. I normally put corny jokes in, so I can't blame him. We just follow Barry parrot fashion. We did a seal once, and he said, "Does this have your seal of approval?" He loves corny jokes. He's called Enthusiastic Paul. because he's extremely enthusiastic with the art lessons. It's a joy to watch his face light up when a technique is new to him, or he gets so excited. See, that makes a difference. Can you see I've just added that darker edge around the inside of the petals, so it's not just red and it's not purple. There's only a tiny bit of blue in there, but it really helps define the shapes. And of course you can add yellow to the outside of your petals, which will also tint that. But watercolours is all about the layers and the glazes. A lot of people get frustrated about it because of that. I kind of like it though. The other thing that you have to do with watercolours, which we did earlier with the petals, is you have to start with your lightest colour first and gradually get darker, because they're so transparent, which is why you put, the white watercolour is actually the white paper, and you have to leave that white if you want white showing through. There's a lot more, I suppose there's a lot more thought behind watercolour painting, whereas with acrylics you can just shove anything on in any old how and you can make it work for you. I will be moving on to the stems in a minute. Now there's 3 stems here that are in front of this poppy. All I'm going to do is lift out these 3 stems just using a damp brush, wet an area, dry it off, and it'll give me a paler line going through so my green doesn't go too brown. I could have missed it out, but then I like showing you different techniques. So will you be back again, Julie? But what's nice about these lessons is that you can pick and choose your subjects or your medium, or there's no pressure to come every week.
Which sort of suits what they're trying to go away with now.
Yeah, absolutely. We found that that the mill does the courses. We don't do the courses, because we found with our customer base, they didn't want to commit to 10 weeks or something because they don't know if they're going to be here for 2 or 3 weeks of those 10. So instead of them paying for none of it and not doing any of it, I'd rather them come every week.
Yes.
Other than the weeks that they can't come.
Yeah. My friend does the one with Rachel.
Oh yes, is that the mill or at Hook Norton?
At the mill.
Yeah.
She couldn't go yesterday, so she lost that one.
Yeah, I mean it is. I mean,
I did think they were quite expensive though.
I think they work out similar to ours,
I suppose it's because you've got.
but you're paying it all in one go.
Yeah.
Because it's like 150 quid or something, isn't it? I think
and
for a
it's like
10-week
you say,
course.
If you've got the odd week where you're away or something's happening.
You have to judge: is it worth it? And especially, I suppose, with an art, I lecture art history courses as well. That's slightly different because I can send somebody the PowerPoint or the presentation or the handout if it's like that. Because we stream these lessons live and record them so people can buy a past video if you like. At least we've got the option here that say you paid for the lesson and you wanted and you couldn't make it, I could send you the video link.
Yes.
So you could watch it anyway.
A bit later,
Yeah. So you're not fully missing out, but I don't think the mill do that. So you do totally miss out on your lesson. So yeah, we tried to offer what you can't get elsewhere. But I'd struggle to commit to a 10-week course. Just financially, it's one big hit, and I'd rather plan weekly.
Yeah.
Because we tried that.
Commitments as well, isn't
Well, yeah, absolutely. We tried it with our art group on a Monday morning that's now at Wardington. We used to have it like people would pay for 10 weeks at a time or 5 weeks at a time, but we found people weren't coming because they couldn't commit and they didn't want to pay for something that they couldn't commit to. So then we just made it pay as you come, and as long as I've got at least 6 people in the village hall, that covers a bit of my teaching time and the village hall hire.
Yeah.
You know, so some weeks I might have 6, another week I might have 10, another week I might have 14. So it all balances out.
Yeah.
But if I made them all pay for a block of them, I don't think I'd get fewer students. It's the same as I'm told, oh, you ought to put your prices up, because we haven't put our lesson prices up in 5 years.
Have you not?
No. Because I think art should be accessible and affordable. And also, if I put the prices up, I'll get fewer students, so I'll still only get the same amount of
Yes,
income
exactly,
coming in
yeah,
anyway.
yeah.
So I'd rather more people benefit from the lessons than fewer and still earn the same income. Yeah, they've when I first opened 11 years ago, we were charging £8 a lesson. Because obviously these are 15, because that's what we provide the materials for. The lessons that we don't provide the materials for, they were £8 when we first opened for 2 hours, 2.5 hours, which was pretty good anyway. And then we put it up to 10, and now it's 12. And I did think, should I increase? We're increasing the online ones by £1 next year, so the online classes are £6, which is nothing really.
It isn't.
But the lessons all through next year are exactly the same, I think. I don't think we've put the prices up for next year either. No, I haven't. It's always a decision, you know, do I, at what point? But as long as my overheads haven't increased, then...
Well, they must have, with all the electricity and...
Well,
all
we all, because this is shared, the cafe is the leaseholder, and then all 4 businesses all pay in together. So it goes up a little bit, but still not enough,
too much,
not
yeah.
enough to negate putting it. And if we did put it up, it might only be like by £1.50 a session or something. Because
Yeah.
again, because the parking's gone up.
Yeah.
If
It's got a massive knock-on effect, isn't it?
exactly, so if I put my prices up and the car parking fees, you know, a student might be paying nearly 15-20 quid to come to a lesson, and then if they're paying their £1.50 for their cup of tea and they've had 2 or 3 cups, you're looking at well over 20 quid for the afternoon, which
Yeah.
isn't
That's
huge, but if you're trying, especially the times we're living in at the moment, where it can fluctuate so drastically financially for everyone, I'd rather everybody just enjoy the lesson and come regularly than say, well, I can only come once a month now. Right, so for my green stems, I'm going to mix the other yellow and the blue, but more of a yellowy green.
Are they still using the same
I-
size brush?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can get a decent point with it, so
Yeah.
you just switch to a smaller brush if you struggle to get the depth. So we'll keep this it's more of a mushy pea green. And you can see where I lifted out the green going through the petal there. It works quite nicely. And of course, by varying the pressure, you can get thicker lines or thinner lines. So we'll just do a blanket mushy pea or a Kermit the Frog green. See, the benefit of classes is really that I take out all of the scary work. I plan the composition and I plan the colours. So, you know, because a different yellow and a different blue will give you a totally different green. And it's knowing which green is the right green for what you want to create,
Yeah.
isn't it? I think it's acrylics next Thursday morning. I've not checked what the subject is. I've got them all planned, but we plan these lessons so far in advance. I don't often. I do the full lessons and printouts and everything the week prior to each lesson. It gives me a bit more flexibility then, because if I know I've got more beginners in the class, then I can slightly tweak the image to make it a little bit easier. Jackie will be able to get that. So at the moment it doesn't matter which stem is in front or behind of another one. I don't think it's ringing downstairs. I'm just going to get it. Let's go down to see if it is ringing or she's heard it, because I can see her on the phone. She's not saying. Back in one sec. We'll start doing some darker bits to this. In a second. Run out to charge the phone downstairs, so that's why it didn't ring.
I can't have the phones that can't ring.
No, you can't. If you can't hear it ring, you can't answer it. Exactly, I said that. I said
Answer it if it didn't ring.
no.
We'll have to bang on the floor or something.
Yeah. We have so many problems with phones in this building. We've gone through loads over the years. No idea why. It's starting to build up in the last 20 minutes, because that's all we've got left. Then I get ready for the afternoon class. I think I've got 2 or 3 this afternoon as well.
Coming in.
Yeah, yes, and there's a couple online. Yesterday was really lovely, the drawing class. The first time since restrictions lifted, we actually had 5 people in this class, which
nice.
fills it, and we had 6 people online. That's the first time since July we've actually had a viable class.
It's lovely, isn't it?
Yeah,
It is. It was
It's
really
quite
nice,
tiring.
and it was just nice to have a banter. We were just chatting about stuff, and as well as doing some work, obviously. But and the online students like to hear different voices in the classroom because they've just been stuck to my voice for the past 2 years. So it's nice for them. I'm trying to work out where the light is coming from in this picture.
It's not easy, is it?
It isn't. I think it might be coming from the right slightly, because the stems seem darker on the left-hand side. But it's very hard to tell. Very hard to tell. Because I'm going to be just adding a bit more blue. Now, if you're doing a darker green, so there's more blue in it, if it starts to look a bit emerald, you can add a very small pinhead of red, and that just dulls the green down a little bit. I'm going to try and just paint it a thin line on the left hand side by putting in the darks. You see, you're able to decide which stem is in front and which is behind. So a little bit of red. Too much red will make your green go brown, so just be aware of that. And then I can stop the dark green where it comes behind another stem. And then we'll look at the actual seed heads or flower buds. But it's amazing all the things you can achieve with just, I mean, we're using 4 colours here, but you know, we've got lots of different tones in this picture. It is knowing which colour will give you what, though. That's what comes with experience. Because I only use 8 colours in total, and with those 8 you can mix 3,000 to 4,000 different mixes. As long as you can remember which does what. But I tend to do it when I teach colour mixing, and we've got a colour mixing, a very short 3-session video course online for 20 quid. And the way I do it, it's more like a mathematical equation, like this plus this will always give you this. Because all colours lean towards another colour. So all blues are either green or purple based, and all reds are either orange based or purple based, and all yellows are either orange based or green based. So once you can identify that and then you stick with the same colours, it becomes a little bit easier to follow. Right, I've done those stems. I'm going to let that dry. a reminder to don't forget to drink your drinks, because it can be so absorbed that we forget. But the seed heads and the buds are exactly the same, in the sense that you'd use a darker tone on the left hand side, and then you might want to use keep that brush with the colour on it, and then use a clean damp brush to blend it into the other green. And that works really well. That just using two brushes makes a big difference. Go darker on that side, clean damp brush on the other. And there's always more purple. You can go purple. Purple's a really good shadow colour, so if you really wanted to answer it, but never mind. Keep going with the darker greens, and then you can add more to your stems as well if you wanted. It's all a good personal choice, but useful to have the green paint and a clean brush. I'll stop for a minute, and then I'll do the buds in exactly the same way. A lot of the time with watercolour painting, and even some of my students that have been in it for a while get frustrated because they forget that because you're having to work from light to dark, a lot of the time a painting doesn't look proper until the darks start to go on, and you can see as we're now adding the darks to that compared to the light bit. The darks are the scary bit, but you need them. You don't know something's light until you've got a dark that shows it up. And you know, one of my favourite phrases is always go darker, go darker, go darker. In drawing as well. I remember my GCSE art teacher used to tell me that when I did portraits. Obviously I thought I knew it all at that age, so I wasn't listening. Yeah. No, I wish I had listened, because I think I'd have got a lot better a lot quicker. Because my portraits always look like transparent ghosts, because I never put any darks in. I never saw the need for lots of skin tone and all of that. Different story now. And with the actual buds, they're a bit bobbly. And to create a bobbly bud, I'm going to outline the dark side, and then just do a few dabs, which looks absolutely awful. But then if I go in with my clean brush and soften around the dabs, I mean, you could find the buds more difficult than the actual poppy because there's a bit of texture in there, but you could just do it without the texture, that's fine. So the hope is that the darks make a difference. You have to trust the process. Can't believe it's 10 to 12, can you?
No.
You all came in 2 hours ago? Mad, innit? Nice. Because if you feel that your time has disappeared, it means you've been really absorbed in the lesson, which is just what we want. What is next Thursday? Let me have a look. Oh, we're doing hills and winter trees at sunset in acrylics next Thursday morning, so that's quite nice.
Ooh. The one after one's, is it the fox, isn't it?
A fox in the snow, yeah. See if I can find the pictures of the fox in the snow in next week's, because I have got them all on a file. I try now to, it's taken me 25 years of teaching, and now I used to just have a hard drive with just any picture I think is a useful reference. I just shove it on that file, and then every 6 months when I go to plan the lessons, I'd be trawling through thousands of images.
Yeah.
So now what I do is I create a file for every 6 months, and then towards that time I then have a folder for each week, and then I have each lesson planned before I put the brochure out with the image for the right lesson, so I know exactly where I am. I wish I'd have done it years ago, to be honest, because it would have made my life so much easier, but hey ho. Week 20 next week. So this is the acrylic class next week, next Thursday morning.
Oh, that's nice.
So it's not overly hard. It sounds
Oh,
more
that's
difficult,
really nice.
so that's acrylics
that's
next
nice.
week.
It's gorgeous, isn't it?
So that's nice punchy now. What's up? There's a fox, isn't it, the week after?
I don't think I stand a chance of
You
doing
do,
that. I've
you
got
do.
a thing about doing animals.
Trace it. We trace the fox, because the back, again, a bit like the poppies, the background is very simple.
Yes.
It's just like all one. So then that's like a 10-15 minute job, and then it's just stippling the hair of the fox. And animal painting is easier than you think, as long as you've got the shape right.
Yes.
But if you're tracing the shape,
It's true.
you've removed that one barrier. Obviously, in drawing classes, I don't allow tracing, because that's the lesson, is the drawing.
Yes.
But because somebody asked me why do you allow tracing in a class, in a painting class, and I said, well, the thing is, they're coming for the painting, not the drawing. And what I not want is for somebody to get so stressed about the drawing of it that they spend the whole lesson trying to get that right, and then they miss the actual bit that they've came
Yes.
to learn, which is the painting. And then over the years, you start to feel a bit more confident in your abilities, and then you draw it yourself freehand. You don't need to trace. So it's only ever a quick way of helping put you at your ease without adding to the stress, which it can already be a stressful situation turning up to a class, especially.
That's got harder after the lockdown though, it's just walking in somewhere.
Mm.
Yeah.
And
It has.
timing, because everything, while it's not done
Yes.
Can't go in and look.
Yeah. Yeah, here we're all right. The classroom's always open 10-15 minutes before the lesson. Give you time to settle down, or even order yourself a drink or whatever. But you can see how the darks that I've just added really have made it more solid. I could go even darker if I wanted to, but if I was going to go darker, it would be more of a purple than a green. So I'd make a dark green and add more red to it. So a dark green is more blue. Are you pleased with your first watercolour in, what did you say, 30 years?
It should be. It's absolutely marvellous. It's beautiful.
So the thing to ask yourself is, I've got them on the board there, what is it? What worked well with what you've created today? What did you enjoy most about the lesson? If you were to repeat this picture, what would you do differently? So would you add more colour or have less colour, or miss one thing out maybe? Or would you just do it again, now you know what to expect?
Do it again, almost the same, but be more confident in what
Yeah.
you're applying of it.
Yeah, it is scary though, isn't it? It is very scary to... I have to often put myself in a situation, so I do a lot of I do courses myself, mainly online because I'm chained to this seat most of the week, but just so I can remember the fear,
Yeah.
because otherwise I can be really blasé about this, because I know what I'm doing and I know what's coming next, but I have to remember that you lot don't know that. You know, you came in at 10 o'clock faced with a photograph of some poppies, and it's like, gosh, how on earth am I supposed to do that? Yeah. And how much do I replicate, and how much do I rely on my own creativity, if indeed you have some? Because not everybody is gifted with sort of foresight where they can tell how things are going to go. Some people are copyists, and some people are more creative in that they don't need to copy, they can just go for it. And the darker you can make yourself go, and I do say make yourself because you don't do it. I mean, when I used to teach in primary education, you always hid the black because the kids would always go for the black because it was the strongest contrast. But as you get older, you start to be a bit more aware of contrasting colours, and you think, I don't think I should go that dark, or maybe. But because you're building it up slowly, it's okay. I've enjoyed that. And you've learned a biro lid technique as well. And hopefully as the paint's dried, you've seen how that's shown up. There is another thing you can do with the biro lid which we don't do in this session. There's a technique called sgraffito. So what we've done here is we've bruised the paper and scratched in, whereas sgraffito we use the scoopy bit of the clip and scratch out while the paint is wet, and that gives us a pale line. But if you press too hard while you're doing it, you end up with a dark line, not a pale line. So it is more of a skill, but really, really, really clever technique. just using something that most people throw away. I think you should be pleased with that. So I'll do it from a distance so you can see.
Oh, it looks better from
From a
that's
distance.
amazing.
Well, it's not bad.
Oh, there you
It's
go,
amazing. From a
see?
distance, it's beautiful.
That's lovely. Yeah. First, you have to keep reminding yourself. First in a while. That's
Sadly, mine isn't first in.
no, but that's still better than you're giving yourself credit for. You'll see.
It's just I don't mind that bit. Well, that bit's that bit.
It's that bit you're not keen on.
Yeah, I don't like that.
The
I
trouble
keep,
is, if you-
kept fiddling with it, trying to make it better, and it doesn't make it better, does it? It makes it
sometimes
worse.
all you see is the mistake you made. Even
Yes.
though you've covered it up and no one else
Yeah.
can see it, it's
Exactly. But there is a point that I will make in a second. See, that's nice.
that's lovely.
Does look better from here.
Yes.
They look almost like poppies, though.
I think they do look like poppies. But the thing to remember is, just because you've painted a whole painting, it doesn't mean that you have to show the whole painting. You know, if something's gone wrong, just chop it off. You know, when you see a gallery exhibition, you only see the finished thing that the artist is pleased with. You don't know how many times he's done it or how many versions have gone in the bin, and you don't know if it was a
Part of a big
absolutely. There was a painting at the Compton Verney. They did an Italian masters painting exhibition, and they looked at a Titian from the 1600s, and it was a big painting of Jesus giving a sermon. And then what they said is there was a painting next to it of just a man, and apparently that man is believed to have been the patron who commissioned the painting of Jesus, but he never paid. So Titian just chopped him off the edge and resold the painting.
Fair enough.
So, you know, you might find say it's a landscape painting that you've done that hasn't quite worked. You might find two smaller paintings within that one painting
Yeah.
that has worked really well. Or in this one, I might think, oh, do you know what? I'm not really keen on that. But if I crop it like that, I've got a lovely long, thin painting, or the same that way. So don't ever feel that the whole painting has to be shown.
Yeah.
There might be an element, as long as it's not the bit that's just the white paper, because that would be quite sad. And it works out quite well. And that is our lesson for today. But thank you. So yeah, a nice, gorgeous acrylic painting next week. With the snowy sunsets and lots of purples and pinks and yellows, which is really nice. So if you've been doing this as a catch-up, I look forward to seeing what you've done as well. Please share it with us. I will take a photograph of this and post it in the reference image that I posted this morning so you can see it. And I will see you all soon. Thank you very much. Bye bye.